Hello and welcome back to GBRANZ. I'm Andy Rowe, and as usual, joined by Justin Marshall, the legendary All Black halfback, and this week, his nemesis, World Cup winning Wallaby, George Gregan. How are you, mate?
I'm very well, thank you.
Or should I say, how are you, champ?
How are you, champ? Well, there you go. No, I'm in good form and enjoying the Autumn Nation series and enjoying being here in London.
I bet you bloody are.
Yeah.
What about that horse that I showed you?
Yes.
How bizarre is that?
Crazy.
So Tim Horan sent a message, I think it was to me last week or the week before, and randomly must have been watching the races, horse racing.
Yeah.
And there was a horse called Don't Call Me Champ.
Did you have a punt? Or you
I didn't have, it was already raced.
Was it an angry
horse? He took a photo of it, screenshot it, and he said, "Mate, is this your horse?"
Yeah.
It's running. So
good name.
Yeah, just somehow, somewhere out there, somebody has also got an issue with being called champ.
That's it.
Like I did
Yeah,
way
you
back
did.
in the
way
day.
back. But that's the sort of form guide that I'd use.
Yeah.
Great name. I'm going to have a bet on that.
Oh, mate, I'd be all over that horse. Hey?
Obviously lose your money, but it's a good one to have a bet on.
Yeah.
What about the rugby, though? That's what we had to chat about. How
Yeah, we
good?
are.
How good? The Grand Slam's on.
Well, we got to inform George first, like that JP, former teammate of yours, not
Yes.
only with the Brumbies but the Wallabies as well. Obviously, you'll know him well, and he's never short of bold predictions.
Of course, that's JP.
Yeah, Ming the Merciless. He threw it out there just before the Wallabies were going on this tour, and he said that they were going to win the Grand Slam, and
He's 50% right with his prediction.
I basically coughed all over and splattered all over myself, and he was up in arms, but he's actually not looking like too much
He's
of an
still
idiot
alive.
anymore, is he?
No, he's still alive, isn't he? And
Yeah.
that's fantastic. And two great results and two back-to-back performances. Obviously, they snatched it last week, and everyone was amazed by that result in that Test match. Which showed really good grit, particularly not starting so well. And then they were kind of ruthless yesterday. I'm sure we'll get into it. So they're 2 from 2. And they've got a dangerous Scotland team, but they'll be feeling, we're improving on this tour. Don't get too far ahead. I like Joe Smith's not allowing them to get too far ahead. And I've liked the language coming out of the team. But, 2 from 2. Well done, Ming.
Well, you were there. You were at Twickenham. What was the chat? Because obviously that was the Wallabies' first game, and England had already played the All Blacks, so they had that game under their belt. But the English are the English. They would have obviously been reasonably cocky that they're going to be able to beat the Wallabies. What was being said when you were around Twickenham?
Yeah, Twickenham that week, or that weekend, but especially they felt like they should have won last week, the week before.
Yeah.
Well, they should have, but they didn't. And they didn't close it out. And they probably did the same thing. Different squad, but same circumstances. Semi-final against South Africa, they had them. Didn't close it out. And so they were thinking, we'll close it out. The Wallabies aren't playing that well. We've got home ground advantage, etc., etc. But the quiet confidence I had going into it was what I'd seen when I went back to Australia about 6 weeks ago. And the All Blacks probably, the Sydney Test match, the Bledisloe, probably should have been up about 40 points. It was one of those matches we were leaking a lot of points. They were skipping. Mackenzie was having a field day. I was thinking, gosh, we've got to improve that. But then they showed some grit, and they fought back in that Test match, and they scored a lot of points. And so they're a team which can score 30-plus points. I didn't think they'd score 42, but Joe Smith's an astute coach, really good with understanding how they want to attack, and you could see the players are starting to feel a bit more comfortable. But I didn't expect them to do what they did, which was pleasing, which was very pleasing going in post-game, because you obviously cop a little bit beforehand. But it was just a quiet, humbling, good win at Twickenham. Hard place to win, as we know.
But good place to win.
It's a very good place to win.
It's nice walking with your your head up, not your chest out too much.
Yeah.
Out of Twickenham, and you've just beaten the English there. It's kind of like, yep. Just a quiet little nod, isn't it, champ? And then
That's it.
go enjoy that first cold ale after a victorious win at Twickenham.
And you probably don't appreciate the magnitude of it until probably later, a lot longer in your career. But it's a special place to play. Well done to the Wallabies. That was a good win.
I want to talk about two cliches that you hear all the time, belief and DNA, because it seems like there is this thing around belief that's coming into the Wallabies where they can win games that maybe they never thought they were going to win, or that they've got a way to play that they kind of believe in what's going on around them and they're on the same page. Because remember in the World Cup last year, you could see it clear as day. You didn't need to be a rugby expert that they weren't on the same page. Now it seems like they've got this belief in each other that they are heading in the same direction. And then the DNA bit that you hear about all the time, you hear about the English talk about it with their rugby, and now you're looking at the Wallabies and going, this is what I remember the Wallabies looking like back in the day when they could put 30 points on you or are a 30-point team, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Are you guys sort of seeing that as well, or am I just talking absolute rubbish?
No, I think there's bang on. I think there's a real understanding of how they want to play. I think that doesn't matter what team you play in. Understanding that is important, and what are your skill sets around that, and then you work really hard at delivering on those things. And then under pressure, you feel comfortable that you can do it. If you haven't practiced those things, there's not a real clarity around what you're trying to do on the field, be it attack both sides of the ball, really. It makes it hard. And you look at the coaching that Joe Smith's done around the world. He builds, be it Leinster, be it Ireland. He did a short stint with the All Blacks. He really works on those fundamentals of understanding how you want to play. And it's ball keep. We'll talk about it a little bit technically. The work on the ground I've seen over the last couple of test matches the Wallabies are doing is fantastic.
Go deep on that, because talk to the layman, because...
Well, that's, I don't want to get too technical, but like when you're working on the ground, it's like you use some footwork beforehand, so you kind of win the collision. I don't like using the word collision, win the contact. Then you work the ground, long placement for the halfback. We like a long placement.
We love a long place.
Halfbacks like a long place. You get your second and third man in over the ball, and then all of a sudden you can ball keep. It's protected. It's there to play, and if it's available, move it. And that's what I've really, really noticed. And then they're moving that ball. It doesn't matter if it's a forward who's moving it or if it's a halfback there. They've got their system of how they want to play. Sometimes it gets a bit narrow because if you're not quite accurate, you have to send more bodies into the breakdown. But they really believe in it, and that's how they beat England. They held on to that for 8 phases. I think Tom Wright's try yesterday against Wales. In the first half, 15 plus phases. I think it was like 16th phase when he scored. So they're trusting it, and they're doing the accurate work on the ground, which allows them to attack and use the ball and find some space, and sometimes use it with your foot, which they do sometimes. But they're really keeping ball in hand, and I think that's a facet that Joe Smith brings into all the teams he coaches, and they really work hard on it, but then they believe it.
So I totally agree. Like just to clarify for people out there why halfbacks love the long place. Because you want to talk about DNA, like it's in the DNA of any tight forward that if they get any opportunity to grab a halfback's jersey, they will.
Yes.
And if you don't get a long place and you have to go in there digging for it, it's like they've won the lottery if they can grab your jersey. Because they basically disrupt and they pull you in and they hold on to you, and then if they grab your arm and pass dribbles along the ground, it's like they're ultimate in the game, particularly tight forwards, you know. Like Lucy's a niggly, and they'll bust their way through, and they'll be a bit more proactive, and they'll actually try to get the ball.
They'll probably try and pilfer, won't they?
Yes,
try and actually get the ball.
But a tight 5 forward just wants to be niggly, annoying, and pick on halfbacks. So that's why we love the long place because they can't reach out that far. But yeah, what I've liked, Gregs, is what I'm starting to see is again, you want to talk about DNA, like when you played, and the Wallabies were great. It was all about multiple threats, players in motion, tempo, rugby, quick breakdowns, fast clearance, and then lots of options. You know, you got your short runners, you got your back runners, you got your block plays and all that. And don't try to go to areas where you're probably not strong. So they didn't really go to line out drive much.
No.
Went short line outs, you know, like players in motion. And then you got multiple threats now, you know, look, you got players coming on all angles, and then you throw someone like Sua'ali'i in there.
Yeah. Suaalii, unbelievable, wasn't it? Yeah, incredible.
Man, what did you make of, did you know much about him, or?
I heard a lot about him. We knew he had some, you talk about DNA, he had some history of playing rugby as a schoolboy, was identified quickly and went to the Roosters, coached by Trent Robinson. The Roosters are fantastic. I think, you know, you're not always going to win that battle of the best talent going to rugby league teams, but if they go to someone like a Trent Robinson, or they go to someone like a Craig Bellamy down in Melbourne Storm, they're going to get developed to become a world-class rugby league player. But a lot of those skills, because he plays on the edge, like an outside centre, that it was a bit like hang on, it's like he's played a while. It's his first test. It's at Twickenham, but he looks very comfortable in that space, and he's got that kind of, I call it big match temperament.
Yeah.
Like a lot of those rugby league boys who've played in those environments, they look for that occasion. So he was really comfortable. But you're right, he can hurt you with his footwork. He's got players around he can trust and offload and create space for. But he's just one example of that. But it's really important to have that in your attack so defence doesn't find a nice rhythm. If you're too predictable and you don't have multiple options, then particularly in the modern game, they get off the line really quickly. And if you're not making them stop and pause because you might have a little different option on there, they win that battle. So that's pleasing to see that there's multiple options and they can play across the field. And the ball handling of the forwards has got much, much better. So they've done a lot of hard work.
How good's Rob Valetini been?
He's been outstanding. He's been very consistent, which he has that in him, but he's just been super consistent. He's really owned it. It's like he's stepped into and leaned into the fact that, hey, I'm going to be one of the leading ball running back rows. I'm going to impose myself on the team. And that's going to drag other people along. It's a nice combination. I'm a big fan of Fraser McWright too. Makes a lot of good decisions.
Oh.
Yeah.
JP reckons he's the best open side in the world.
He's got a good ball playing, just good game sense. But he remembers a young Artie Severe. Remember when young Artie Severe came on? Like I was a massive fan of him too. So I'm still a massive fan of them. But you see those elements in players, and if you've got them working nicely in a back row, and you've got a hard-working tight five unit, you're starting to get the makings of a really good, consistent pack. And he's really, as I said, he's really lent into that.
I like to call Valetini the broccoli. I think he looks like a stalk with a thing on the top. Yeah. Next time you see him play, check it out. Like he looks like a.
There you go.
Like if you're going to turn him into a vegetable, he'd be a piece of broccoli.
Yeah, that's a healthy bit of broccoli.
I don't know where that information's come from, but regardless.
No, you're thinking too much. What have you been eating? Mushrooms.
I was just wondering.
Good analysis.
He's got that sort of body shape, and then there's that big fro that just sticks out like that.
No, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
The sprouting. Yeah, the sprouting fro.
Exactly. Whereas you'd be a carrot.
Yeah, that's it.
I don't know what I'll be. It's probably just potato.
Yeah,
with
potato.
the fat.
I like potato. Sweet potato or just a regular
just a sweet potato.
Okay,
yeah,
nice.
maybe a kumara.
Yeah, kumara.
You like
I
that?
like it. I like that.
Good. I wanted to ask you about, you played with quite a few league converts. So
Yes.
Wendell,
Lottie,
Matty
Rogers,
and
Andrew Walker,
Peter
Ryan came from the Broncos. Incredible.
What was it like when they first come into the environment? Those guys, I think about Wendell. Wendell's
a big personality.
Yeah.
Loved having those guys in the squad. Loved having Walks and Peter Ryan. What they bring is just a level of professionalism in terms of how they train. They train really hard. The rugby league boys, their attitude
so this
to
is a
training.
real thing. So I've heard about this. The league boys come in, and a lot's been made about Sua'ali'i with his training and being able to come in, and everyone's going, "Whoa, look how professional he is." So it's a thing.
Yeah, it's totally. Well, it's such a competitive competition, the NRL. It's getting more and more. Every year, it gets more and more competitive. So the battle of that athlete and getting better, their passing skills, their understanding of where the space is, their short kicking game, really outstanding. I remember Andrew Johns came into the Wallaby camp around 2006-07. He was good mates with Scotty Wisemantle, I think he's coaching in Parramatta now, but he coached with Eddie. He was the skills coach for the Wallabies, an attack coach, a wonderful coach. He got Joey to come in and just work on our short kicking game, which is obviously really common now. And Joey would do, it was like a dummy switch, and then showing Stevie Larkham just, when we're in the 22, do a dummy switch, and then we'll just kick it. He says, an aim for the post. I try and hit the post, so you don't know where the ball is. And he did the dummy switch, boom, and hit the post 5 out of 5.
Joey.
And I'm talking about the post, not with the big
pads on it.
Pads on it. We hit the post at Coogee, and we all went. and we were going, that's that easy. And he was making it bend. It was hitting the post every time. I'm thinking, okay, that's very impressive. Yeah. And so, that's an example of what comes in. That was just the standard. And then there was always little games, and it was really impressive. So they bring that, and they bring a level of competition. And as I said, that big match temperament they have in spades. So someone like Andrew Walker, he was a good example. He could run all day. He was kind of my size, but super strong, pound for pound, probably the strongest in the Brumbies and the Wallabies setup. But he just loved to run. So he'd be saying on Tuesday, "Oh, we need to do some fitness because the rugby league boys do these fitness." I said, "Mate, walks. We've been travelling around. We're all pretty. Just cool your jets on it. But if you want to do extra fitness and extra running, maybe just do some kicking, and I'll do some stuff for you. But we can do some work. But we're not going to be running 200s." He says, "I just want to be doing it." I said, "Walks. You're not going to be doing that. You'll be the only one doing that." I saw that Victor. I played with Victor Matfield at Toulon, and he had that sort of. That was part of his little routine, doing these hundreds at the end of, like on a Tuesday or Wednesday, so he could pay it forward. But that's an example of the work ethic, but also the understanding of playing. Like Walks was a very visual learner. So we'd sit down in meetings, and someone like Steve Larkham and Roffy's and others would be very, there's a scholastic piece that you draw the diagrams, you do a whiteboard, and we're putting here X and O's. Walks just says, "Just tell me where I've got to be. Just tell me what." Walks will turn up, and I'll run the hole. And so you'd have a call for it. It might be called Crusaders or whatever it was. And he'd say, "Just chase Stevie's inside hip." He says, "Just run his inside hip on Crusaders and run the hole." And then there's a bit of third person talk with a lot of the rugby league boys too. Not so much LT and Roggo, but Walks. He says Walks just runs holes. So if you watch any imagery, or if you do a YouTube on Andrew Walker's tries, watch how many times he's just catching it in space and no one's near him. It was unbelievable. He's one of the best hole runners I ever played with, and that's played with some good ones. Roffy was very, very, very good too.
Yeah, he was okay, wasn't he?
Etc. But he was unbelievable. I remember speaking to Brad Fittler. So Brad Fittler, Freddie played a lot with him at the Sydney City Roosters, and he said he was the best hole runner he ever played with.
Walks.
So because
and you can't coach that, can you?
No,
That's just
his
a player
spatial awareness.
seeing it. Yeah.
He was a freak. He was unbelievable, and I'll finish on Walks and because we've got more to cover. That we did the first trial. I think we played Otago in a pre-season in 2000. So he came at the end of 99, 2000. He came to the Brums, and we were doing it. He could kick the ball a mile. He could drop punt it like back in the day. He could drop punt it probably 60 metres. He could torpedo it like almost the length of the field. He had such a big kick.
It's crazy how he could do that because he's not big, eh?
No, and his timing, he was just unbelievable. But I've been playing against him since under 16s. You'd go to these carnivals and everyone just would stop, shower quickly to go watch Walks. He was that good.
Really?
But he did this drop kick restart, and it was okay. Where do you want it, Griggs? You'd have to give him a target. So he was, as I said, he's very visual. I'd say, well, put it on the M of like Canberra Milk, and he did. But he kicked it over the dead ball line, like 2 bounces. So he hit the target, but it bounced. And then it's a scrum at halfway. And he says, "Well, I was wrong. You told me to kick it there." I said, "It's my fault. Next time I'd say, can we have a bit of hang time on it and land it so we can catch it? Because if it lands, it goes over the dead ball line and walks it." So he goes, "No worries. So we just want more hang time. What do you want?" And I said, "Well, mate, could we be about a 3 or 4 second hang time?" Bang. He'd hit these. It was like a bomb drop kick. And he was unbelievable. But that's how you had to speak to him. Give him a target, and he'd hit it all day long. It was amazing.
Just tell him what you want, and he'll do it.
That was it. And give him that visual cue was run Stevie's inside hip, or chase Sterl on the outside, or follow me on the outside on that play, and just run. And just as he said, Walks just runs holes. So if he calls it, he's in space.
They're unique, like the lead players, eh? Like that, and they do bring that. Because I like Brad Thorne when he came to the Crusaders, yeah. And I'll be interested here because I reckon probably if I was thinking of a personality that would be similar, it would be Wendell, but it might not be. But I'll tell you about Brad first. The thing that you used to fear with Thorny was the gym, because the gym was his focus for the week. You know, like at the end of the day, he trained the house down and all that sort of carry on, but he loved turning up for the gym.
Yeah.
So basically, he would turn up, and if the forwards are in at 8 o'clock and the backs are in there at 9, forwards are supposed to do their hour, and then the backs do their hour, whatever. Thorny's still there at 10. So he's done his hour, but then he wants to be there when the backs are there as well. And he literally comes in, and he's always in a singlet. Doesn't matter what time of the year it is. Like it might be July in Christchurch, and it's
freezing,
-2, and he's in a singlet, and he's just prancing around, like. And he's just stalking the gym, like. And then when he does his weights, he's like, yeah, like that, and he's like shouting.
Oh, he's a grunter.
Oh yeah, and he's like, oh, Thorny's feeling strong today. I'm feeling it, boys. And he's got that voice, and I used to shit myself because, like, if I was going on the bench, and he happened to come past me, he would just start laughing at what weight I had on there. And I'd go, what are you laughing at? That's baby stuff. Marsh, you should be embarrassed. And I'm thinking, oh, shit. And then I'm trying to get it off the bar to get it, you know what I mean? And it was just his attitude towards it, but it was infectious.
Yeah.
You know, because like the gym could get mundane, couldn't it?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
You know, he played for longer than me, but, you know, 16, 17 years as a pro, fuck, the gym you're just like, oh my God, another gym session. So you need to kind of have people in there that kind of spark you up a bit.
That does say something about Brad Thorne because he played for so many years. He must have just loved the gym. Just loved it.
Yeah, no, and he, you know, he had a reputation too to protect that he.
And he was
like
proper concrete. It was hard.
He
Big
wanted
bad
to
Brad.
absolutely axe people out there, you know, when he could, and it was important to him to feel strong. You know, it was a mental thing.
Yeah, it was like a box to tick. Have I done my preparation this week? That was big for him. Like Wendell was, I wouldn't say he was as mad on the gym, but he liked it. And he obviously liked the bench press and the big squats. But one thing
He was but he talked to himself he called himself the Dell,
the Big
didn't he?
Dell. He called the Big Dell.
I'm the Big Dell.
And we were obviously quite big on, we were early adopters of like sort of Pilates / yoga, mobility and flexibility. And he didn't stretch too much back in his day. And Jason Weber, our trainers, said to everyone, okay, we'll get our flexi bands out. We're going to do our hip flexors. We're going to go into down dog into this, really open up. So we're feeling long and feeling strong. So when we hit the field, like we can go 100%. And we'll increase our range of movement over this next 4 weeks. So you'll be feeling so much better. You'll be running faster. And Wendell would say, Jace, go, Webby. He says, do you ever see a lion stretch? And I'd say, maybe they don't stretch. They do like a little downward dog. They do like to just get their thoracic long, and when they move quick. I said, but you could probably need to work on it, Del. Then you'd see him, like he had the tightest hip flexors, and he didn't like it at all. It was quite painful for him. But then he opened up, fair play to him, growth mindset. Yeah. And I said, how's the lion feeling now? He's feeling longer and stronger now, Griggs. The Big Del's feeling good. Oh, that was hilarious. He would bring that sort of energy, which was great. Yeah. And you'd have someone like Matty Rogers, who was a great character too, telling Wendell to shut up. We've all heard it. We don't want to hear you chat. And LT was kind of quiet, but then he'd wind him up as well. So there's a good energy going through there. And I think that's what they bring in. I didn't even mention Peter Ryan. Peter Ryan just brought an edge, like particularly to the contact areas, not so much the breakdown, because we had Georgie Smith, who was pretty handy at that stuff.
He's okay.
But the tackling, and he wasn't a big man, Peter Ryan, but probably two of the best tackles I ever saw on the rugby pitch were by him. And it sounded like he was like a gunshot. He'd take people's legs out, get to his feet over the ball, and it was all about that, just the timing of his hit. It was unbelievable. And so I think he stayed on for a couple of years. 2002, 2003, he was a player, but then looked after our defence, and he's had a great career as an assistant coach with Brumbies, I think with Broncos and others, where he's taken that on board, and he just brings that edge to it, and really looking forward to the other side of the ball. So when you didn't have it, which probably wasn't an area of strength for us early doors, we like to be more on using the ball, but he brought that, which was really nice. So that brings a lot of confidence too.
Well, if you're looking for your next rugby league player and you want to watch the NRL, you can use our NordVPN that we've got. Yeah, they're supporting the podcast, supporting GBRANZ. Do you know what NordVPN is?
Well, I know the VPN. Nord, I've seen VPN. I've used another one previously, but I like the sounds of this. This is when you sort of in Hagibis 2019 Rugby Union World Cup. It was Typhoon Hagibis, and everything was like stopped. The city shut down. We were in Shinjuku, but the Raiders were playing the Sydney Roosters in the grand final. So I was hoping Ricky Stewart and the Raiders boys would get it done. They lost by the narrowest of margins, but I watched that through a VPN.
Exactly.
Up on like level 42 of the Shinjuku hotel. Everyone was getting around. A lot of Aussies and Kiwis going, well, how'd you do this? I said, the VPN. Tune in.
NordVPN. We'll just say that was the NordVPN.
Yeah.
Because it's exactly that. Like I used it on the weekend because I was flicking around trying to find different commentary. So I just couldn't handle the commentary that I was listening to. So I won't talk about who it was, but just trying to get my home commentary while I'm in the UK, streaming it that way. It's so good.
Yeah. I was the same. I used my NordVPN when I was in the cab to the game because you know what Stade de France is like to get to. Yeah. But I did cab there, but obviously I was going there when the England-South Africa game was on. Yeah. So I was like, right, how do I manage to keep an eye on this game whilst I've got to travel to the game? Got it on my NordVPN, all the streaming services support it. So bang, I was
Good
able
job.
to watch that game. And
Well, you need that when it's Automation Series. There's so much going on.
oh
There
mate,
Busy
is.
how many
weekends.
games are there on?
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. And if you want to get yourself a NordVPN, go to NordVPN or go to the link that's in the description box to this podcast. You also get 4 extra months on a 2-year plan, and there's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee as well. And the link, again, is in the podcast description for this episode. It's got great security as well. So if you were caught in a cyclone, or if you were streaming from a cafe or some open Wi-Fi or whatever it is, NordVPN will protect you. It's good stuff.
Brilliant.
I want to. Before we move on from the Wallabies, we haven't talked about Tom Wright.
Oh, unbelievable.
We were talking about running through holes.
Well, you see, now here, to those South African listeners out there to our podcast, and I know you're very passionate about your side, and I put 3 of you in my rugby championship side, and might have even been 4, and still got shit from you because you wanted the whole back line in there. But the only Wallaby in my entire 15, and this was just because the Wallabies hadn't gone well in the rugby championship, so no offence, champ.
That's all right.
Was
You got
Tom
to pick
Wright?
it on form. You got to pick it on form.
I did, yeah. Was Tom Wright? And a few people raised their eyebrows, but I just thought he is playing such good rugby at the moment. Like, he's massively positive. His first instinct is
Use his legs.
when he gets it kicked to him is to look about where he can fracture the line or take on a weak defender, and then if that's not available and he might be isolated, he'll kick. But in general, he's really backing himself, isn't he? And man, isn't it funny when you get into that sort of form, you actually seem to find your way to the ball at the right time.
Yeah, it's true.
You just sort of they just players that get that sort of knack and are at the top of their game, they just tend to ghost into the game at the right time. Like when McDermott made the break yesterday, that could have gone to any player, but it happened to just be Tom Wright.
Yeah.
Because he's in that sort of form. He'd already scored 2 tries. He didn't need a third, did he?
But they go they're hungry,
Yeah.
looking for the ball.
Yeah.
Like, different, we're showing our age here, but if there was a line break anytime he played against a Christian Cullen team, he'd loom up. He's just there. And he's got that sort of approach to the game and reads the game really, really well. And I think when you're having that mentality, it's hard. If you're coaching against and doing the defence against him, you better make sure your kick chase is good. If it's a fractured line, he's going to back himself to beat those first 1 or 2 defenders. And then even more so in the modern game, if you fracture that first bit line, it's hard. And then there's all these little opportunities. And I think that's what's been really pleasing, really positive attitude to let's use the ball. If not, yes, we can always kick. And again, this is throwback to our day, which you always do.
Yeah.
I love that about Leon McDonald. I don't think he was one of the most underrated players in terms of that mentality.
Yeah.
He was very decisive. If he was going to kick, he'd kick early. But if it was, he's going to back himself, pass early, kick early, or he'd run. But whatever it was, he was 100% committed to that decision, which is definitely what Tom Wright's doing at the moment.
I'd like to know how quick he is.
He's
Because he
sneaky
seems to
quick.
be, he seems to be skinning defenders where it looks like they've got him, but then once he gets into the open, he's like pulling away from people. Like
He doesn't look like he's running fast, eh?
Covers the ground.
Yeah.
Good runners are like that. He's just running on top of it, isn't he?
Yeah,
He's gliding.
yeah.
I also like the language that he was. I mean, you talked about language before, when he was speaking after the game, because he was talking about momentum and how the momentum shifted at one point, and that was because I dropped the ball and the shift of he was very aware of what he was saying. It wasn't just a post-match interview. It was the game was built on momentum. We lost it at one point, but that's because I dropped it off a kickoff. So we've got to iron those sort of things out. That's quite a high level of self-awareness.
He's digesting the game really well. Yeah.
Yeah, he looks. You can see he's someone who's a bit of a student of the game. He's aware of that whilst the game is being played, so that's going to help with decision making. But also, I love that. Put your hand up. But no one plays a perfect game. No one's ever played a perfect game.
No.
And he's in a really good stretch of form at the moment, and long may that continue. But I like that. I like that sort of language too, as you said, and it keeps you grounded. Understand. Test match rugby's hard. And, when you get them a chance, which they did really well yesterday, to put teams away, that's something you got to practice, being a bit ruthless, and they were yesterday. And he was part of that action.
Did you catch the game? All of it?
I caught all of it.
Okay, good, because I just need to ask you, because it's just, I just think, I wonder if we're going too far. Did you think that's a red card?
Yeah, I think I honestly think with that, and they're making the decision. You got to be consistent. If it's head-to-head contact or it's shoulder, then that's kind of automatic. It's yellow.
Yeah.
Then we'll have a look. There's 2 from Wales.
Yeah.
And it was just play on. It's a
Yeah.
penalty. It wasn't even a penalty. It's just play on. And as soon as that happened, it's for Karevi. That's exactly. It should be yellow. Look at red. Does it go to red with a mitigating circumstance?
Which
Did he
was
drop
the player
hit?
was dropping.
And it's like
he didn't get his technique wrong. He was still low,
Yeah.
but the player dropped.
Yeah.
And it's head contact, yes, but it's not intentional.
no, there wasn't.
And
Like
for
the
him to
other
be
2.
sent off for that, I'm just like, that's just a bit too far, really.
Yeah, I just think it's inconsistent
Yes, agree.
because of what happened in
Agree.
that game. Like
Yeah.
you saw 2 incidents with Welsh players. It was head-to-head contact, and nothing was done. And is that a bad decision? Well, maybe it isn't a bad decision.
Problem
but
is that's the TMO though, isn't it? Not the ref.
Yeah,
So the ref actually Dolman made the call on those 2 Welsh ones. He equally got referred to Well, it was all referred TMO,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Yes.
But he saw them, but he felt that the Karevi one. But then it's in the hands of the TMO, not the ref. Like I wonder if you asked Dolman for his thoughts on it, if he would just say, "No, I'm happy with it being yellow," but the TMO is looking at it 20 times, slowing it down, and sees it maybe differently than what it actually was on the field.
I think
with the referees on the field.
yeah.
But anyway,
I think it's just frustrating as a rugby viewer.
Yeah.
The whole thing, like the fact that we're talking about it now because it's a big thing to talk about, but it's also like every single game in the weekend had a card or something that could have, would have, should have, or might not have been. And how have we got to a point where that's a big thing to be talking about? Like it didn't used to be like that.
No.
And that's, for me, it's frustrating. I know we're trying to make the game safer, but
Can make the game
Jesus
safer and make
Christ.
those decisions quicker and I think consistent so that we can get the ball moving, so to speak.
Yeah.
I think there's too many lulls and too
Yeah.
many delays in our game, which doesn't help with continuity. And you talk about momentum and flow. You want that as a spectator as well. And I think that's a part of what rugby needs to be really addressing. We want more ball in play. We want to see the players in action.
For sure.
And what that might do too, and there's always this debate, it might bring a bit of fatigue in. I like the idea of that. You know, if the ball's in play and there's not as many stoppages, it doesn't become as
open it up.
power-based. It's actually, no, we're cracking on. Let's go. And they can prepare that way. And I like the idea of that. And then people are watching more of the game with the ball in play and we're not resetting things for 3-5 minutes or waiting a long time to get a decision.
I'll tell you where there's lots of slow resets on the weekend. In Paris.
There was.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
Every single scrum.
They need to look at that.
Someone's going down. Someone's got an injury. Every single stoppage.
Yeah, those scrum
Wild.
law variations that we trialled in the Southern Hemisphere of having only a minute were brilliant.
Yeah.
They worked really well. And
Are we not doing that? Is it obviously not part of...
No, it's not been part of the autumn internationals. But thank God, like honestly, thank God they actually had the foresight to bring in the 20-minute red card.
It's good.
Otherwise, we would have had, I think, 4 games at least spoilt by teams being down to 14 men. Because think about that Wales-Fiji game. How good a game was that? But even so, it was Radradra that got sent off, wasn't it?
Yep.
You know, that would have... Fiji survived for 20 minutes. And then they actually eventually won the game. Everyone saw a contest.
Yeah.
But there's no way they would have survived if the old red card system was in, because he obviously wouldn't. They would have been down to 14 for the entire match.
Exactly.
So at least they've actually seen the light there, because there was 75,000 people at Millennium Stadium that day, and I think he got carded 20 something minutes into the match or whatever. The contest would have been over and people were let down. But the fact that we still got a game out of it, I think that's really good that they've brought that particular.
Yeah, it's a massive step forward.
Yeah, so you're talking about a scrum clock, not a shot clock like in basketball.
Scrum clock.
Yeah,
So
we
they had the
trialled it
scrum-
in New Zealand.
It's good.
Yeah, and they weren't, and the scrum halves weren't allowed to come past the middle of the tunnel.
Is that right?
Yeah, we weren't allowed to niggle at number 8.
So it's like you play, that takes you back when you played under 18s or
That's it,
something.
yeah.
That's perfect.
Don't come past the tunnel.
Don't go past the tunnel. Perfect.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, it was great. But yeah, lots of stoppages in that game. But I mean, the All Blacks had their opportunities to win it, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. And, look, first of all, fantastic test match.
How good was the haka?
Yeah, great. And the
I mean, we've
French...
talked about the haka a lot on this tour.
Yeah.
but this was
it was.
So the France
culture,
do that well,
recognising
don't they?
culture.
The
Yeah.
French are amazing. Like, to be fair, they got massive respect, and they appreciate and know our history, and they don't try to interfere. And literally, they put a big halo over it. Big,
Both teams. It was beautiful, wasn't it?
It was amazing. And the crowd literally were dead quiet. And if anybody tried to make a noise, you could hear people going shh, shh, like that in the stadium. So that was awesome. So it was a great start to the test match. The French anthem was intense. It's probably
Two
the
huckers
best.
as well.
Yeah.
Two leaders.
Yeah, exactly.
Cody Taylor starting it, and then Rieko Ioane doing the second half.
Yeah, amazing,
cool.
eh? Like,
And then the French anthem going a
It's the
cappella.
best, isn't it?
wow. Yeah, it was bloody hell. I've heard it belted out a few times, but
Yeah.
and then the test
You can't
match
help
lived up
toe
to
tapping
it.
to the French national
Yeah,
anthem,
you do, don't you?
There's some part of everyone's marching on. I'm not French.
We had Zinny on this podcast 2 weeks ago, and he sat where you are and sang the Scottish national anthem.
Yeah,
He said he loves
unbelievable.
it.
Yeah.
He used to hum it when he was playing
When he was
against them.
playing against Scotland.
Well, I must admit, I had to stop toe tapping to the Frenchie. I love that there.
Yeah.
That's a special arena, Stade de
Yeah.
France, and they make that experience incredible. And then when you get a cracker game,
Yeah.
30 to 29, going down to the wire,
Yeah.
that's a pretty special night. And as I said earlier to Marshy, I'm sure the All Blacks will respond like they always do after a loss, but you always want to win those narrow ones. But if you're going to lose one in that occasion, you'll cop that.
Yeah. Yeah, look, it was another one of those ones for the All Blacks. Unfortunately, that's been a little too common this year, and Razor will know that, and he does know that. He knows that at least one in South Africa, he definitely should have jagged one of those, and that's what the good teams are doing. Like, South Africa wouldn't have lost that test when they were in the contest like the All Blacks were, because South Africa have just got this mentality at the moment that they don't know how to lose. And that's what good teams historically have a massive advantage over the rest of the teams in the world when they're at the top of their powers. And, George has played in teams like that where, you're probably not the better team on the day, but somehow you still get the result.
Yeah,
and at
just
the
pass
moment,
it
the All
to
Blacks,
Kefu.
the All Blacks just quite haven't got that at the moment. They've got the capability and the potential when they're competitive, but they're just a little green at the moment to know when the test match is there to grab it.
Yeah.
They're not grabbing it.
Are you talking about the 74th minute?
I'm talking about instances in the last quarter, like not just the 74th minute,
Yeah.
where
Because, I agree with you. Well, not just with the All Blacks, but with the really good teams, particularly that last 15, 20 minutes, you've probably got the chance, if it's a really narrow game, you're probably going to have about 4 to 6 chances to take that, to seize it.
Yeah.
It is quite a few opportunities, but it's understanding, okay, that's the moment, and going all in on your execution, on your decision making, etc. And once you get over that hump, it becomes really good muscle memory, and you actually look forward to those tight test matches. And that's all it'll take. That's all it'll take, and then they'll be in their Rolls Royce mode of saying, okay, we can blow you away early in the game, but if it needs to be numbers, we're pretty good at closing out as well. And that's what the really good to great teams do. That they can win it anyway.
So, George, you're talking about actually having it in your head as a team that you're going to get 4 to 6 opportunities in the last 20 minutes to potentially win this close game.
Yeah.
And recognising when there is one of those moments, you go from maybe we're going at 80% here to we're putting 100% into this particular play, and we've got to execute it perfectly, and we could win the game in this moment. Is that what?
That's kind of it.
But they're not. They're not only always try scoring opportunities or point scoring ones. It's executing an exit.
Yeah, a perfect
after
exit.
points. Perfect exit, and then
Good catch. And where's that perfect
get it in
exit?
the right zone.
It might be a kick, but it might be an exit because they've got people back.
Yeah.
You move the ball a couple, and then you use it. You get to the 40-metre line. You've still got the ball in hand. They're still defending.
Yeah.
But hang on, that's a great exit. But we've still got the ball. But whatever it looks like, but you really understand that's important that we get this piece of the game right.
Yeah, and that's what good teams do. That they execute those little opportunities within that period really well, and the All Blacks didn't. They had instances off kickoffs where they got stuck in their 22. I think Cortez Ratama knocked it on, or he got done for 5 seconds, whatever. Bang, they got pinned in there 22, and then all of a sudden the game dynamics change because you're on defence after the back of scoring points. Those are the little things we're talking about that the All Blacks aren't just quite getting right. Like they had real good flow on. I think they're 8, 9 phases in, had the French scrambling a little bit, and then Rico went to try punch a hole, little short pass, I think from Bowden, didn't work, coughed it up, French got it, and started attacking. You know, those are where, and that was in the last sort of 10, 15 minutes. You got to hold those or not throw them. And those are those little moments we're talking about. They're not necessarily scoring points, they're controlling the game and not allowing the opposition to dictate. You're dictating. And that's not quite where the All Blacks have got their synergy at the moment. They're still, because let's face it, the England game, they really jagged that because England did the same. They couldn't execute.
Yep.
You know, like ultimately they butchered it because their scrum had a lapse and the All Blacks got the ascendancy and they couldn't execute the drop goal. You know that. So it wasn't so much the All Blacks doing it really well that day. It was more England are kind of in the same boat, to be fair.
Yeah, but it's not easy. But that understanding of closing out is really, really important.
Antoine Dupont recognises those moments the whole game.
Yeah, he's special. Like I think everyone's been saying he's special for.
I know.
Many,
It's
but he
hard
just
to
keeps
what
getting
else
better.
you say.
Or he's hungry. He's a really humble young man too. We were in Paris a couple of weeks ago for a midi Olympic. The Oscar de Legend was there with Kirk, David Kirk, Foxy was there. Steve Larkham, DC was there. Couldn't get Aaron Smith over. Shag wouldn't let him come over from Japan.
Of course he wouldn't.
But it was a great celebration. So he was there. They're obviously preparing for the match 2 weeks ago, and you know he's thirsty and hungry for more in terms of international rugby. Look what he did to the Sevens. I'm gonna focus and try and get a gold medal. They get it. And his ability to see moments in games and his skill execution, everything Marshy said, like he can see the field narrow, which is really hard as a half. He can see the width as well. He can kick off both feet, and when there's a moment, it could be a quick tap or it could whatever it is, he'll find it. It could be a 50-22, 50-22, whatever it is. He's got the skill set in his arsenal, but he's also got that awareness to actually execute, and he gets it right more often than he gets it wrong.
Personality, excuse me, you've met him and chatted to him, and you've played in France. People out there that don't know, George played at Toulon.
Yeah.
And you know what the French can be like because we've had our laughs about that. You know, they're puffing of the cheeks, and because they're quite an emotional race in general, aren't they? And equally at rugby, they play their rugby the same way, which is this, the French enigma of, they could be up, they could be down, could be whatever. The long-winded way that I'm wording this question, given that you know Dupont, when I watch him, he doesn't tend to be too emotional out there.
He's very calm.
Yeah. Which is unusual for a Frenchman.
Yeah.
And particularly when you're a captain, because you've got to deal with all the shit that's going on and the ref and your teammates and all that, but he seems pretty unflappable.
He's very level-headed, isn't he? Yeah. Or like when they're up, when they're down, whatever it is, he's very, very consistent in that regard. And I think that helps with his decision-making and just doing what he does. And he works really hard, like I think all those players. You can see he works hard on all that skill set, and he just loves the game. And I've spoken to, Arnold when he was in the Wallaby squad. I went to the game before the World Cup started in Paris, and he was just saying he's just always wanting to work on the game, loves his teammates, will pull someone aside like Arnold and say, like, let's work off, like, could you, when that 4-ball one, can you work on turning me around the corner or putting it here if we're going to box? He's just always constantly working on his game and working with others to improve how he and his team will perform. So, yeah, he's quality, and he just wants to get better. And I think he has that winning attitude, and the players around him respond. He's highly respected, and I don't think he's a big yeller and screamer. He's a real doer.
He's very quiet.
And he just gets on with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not commentating the game from halfback.
No,
maybe in French he is.
Before we have a look at the games this weekend, before we dig into those, let's bite into this a little bit. GBRANZ is stoked to be partnering with Angel Bay to bring you the Northern Tour with their new gourmet breakfast beef sausage patties. The perfect pairing for those early morning games that are in all good supermarkets now. So if you're getting up to watch the game this weekend, it's the perfect chance to try out some of those new sausage patties. They're part cooked. I know I say this every time, but I need to make it clear. They're part cooked when you get them, not pre-cooked. So what happens is when you go to cook them, it takes like 5 minutes from frozen. You can chuck them straight onto the element from frozen.
Straight on the barbie.
Oh, mate, they're so good.
I'll tell you what, actually, that Angel Bay apron that's directly behind you with those Angel Bay burgers. It's making me hungry because I didn't have breakfast, to be perfectly honest. I'd love to be having.
It's your 5-2 day.
Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah. I'd love to be having the Angel Bay breakfast burger right now.
And they're gourmet. They've got like onions and stuff in them.
Good stuff.
They're not just, and because they're part cooked, when you put them on, they don't shrink. You know, you put burgers on the element and they shrink.
So that they keep their size.
They keep their size.
That's good.
It's unreal.
Yeah.
So you can rock up to this type of thing, because you know when you go to someone else's barbecue, you don't want to rock up with, you don't want them to be cooking fillet steak and you to be rocking up with beef sizzlers. You could easily rock up with the Angel Bay.
And it gets the thumbs up.
Massive.
Yeah. That's good.
Massive thumbs up.
Yeah.
And people won't know that it's come from the packet, because it's like prime New Zealand beef and lamb. Perfect stuff. So make sure you get involved. Go and check out the link in the description to this box. Go and get yourself some. Lads, this game this weekend, these games, the Grand Slam goes on the line against Scotland.
Yeah, at Murrayfield.
Not to be taken lightly.
Never to be taken lightly. And I think they've got a bit of a bounce in their step against the Wallabies. I'm not sure what the stats are over the last probably 8 test matches or 5. It's in their favour of Scotland. They will fancy themselves. They're very good on the ball. Defensively, really good team. Make it difficult. You saw how they pushed the Springboks a couple of weeks ago. Yes, it was the Springboks' first match of their Autumn Nations series, but it was 19-12 with like 14 or 15 minutes to go, and the Boks scored a couple of points at the end. So it looked a bit further. It was a tight game.
It was quite flattering, I thought,
And it could have been sort of 19-all. They missed an opportunity, one of those moments, and it would have been quite interesting to see how they dealt with it. So they'll fancy themselves on both sides of the ball, and if they get quick ball, everyone will talk about Finn Russell the whole week. He's an amazing player, and particularly in those scenarios where you have quick ball, if you're not defending well around the ruck, or if you're too narrow, he'll use the edges. And if you worry too much about what's happening in those wide extremities, he'll use his feet and his short and his long passing game. So there's lots of threats with Finn Russell. All those things we spoke about, good attack.
Yeah.
He's one of the best in the business at it. And so he'll be asking a lot of questions of the Wallabies defence. So that's going to be the challenge for the Wallabies this week, making sure they're together, they're committed to defend as one, and just solve problems, work really hard on the inside. If they can do that, as I said earlier, they've got points in them. This Wallaby team has averaged, what is it now, 42. They went 50 the other day, or yesterday. They're scoring a lot of points, so they'll have that confidence they can score points. Where they win it is being good at the breakdown when they're retaining the ball themselves, so they can attack.
They're the best 7 in the world.
And also, he needs to continue his form, but fronting up for that physical contest is going to be good, because then if you do that, then maybe you can reduce a bit of time and space with Finn Russell. And I don't care how good you are, if you reduce someone's time and space, then that's
he finds
difficult.
It though.
He
finds
really smart.
the space. There's no
He's
space
looking for it.
Yeah, he's there.
Yeah.
Always.
I'm going to be very delicate in the way I say this, but
Oh, here we go.
I think Joe Smith recognised the very vulnerable Wales, and the fact that they're in a hole, aren't they, big time? And so I think he was kind of confident that he could make a few tweaks from the side from England. He brought Skelton in, made changes in the midfield, halfback. Scotland are a different beast, aren't they?
Yeah.
So do you see him going back to basically that team that started against England?
It's good questions, because
and who starts at half?
Yeah, who starts at half? That would be a really good question. I think Tate's doing a great job coming off the bench.
I agree.
I think he'll continue doing that sort of finishing role. Or if there's an injury or something happens, he comes on and he's doing a really good job. It's really horses for courses. Like with Jake / Whitey. Whitey's got a bit more of a longer kicking game.
Yeah.
Box kicking game, but Jake can do that as well. Organising around the rucks. It depends if you want to play a bit up tempo. It's all those questions which only Joe and the selectors will have an understanding how they want to particularly start that game. And I was pleased with the start, because the matches I've watched previously, the Wallabies haven't been starting that well. Mind you, they started well in Argentina, and then they literally did fall off a cliff. But they've improved so much since then. So if they can do that in Murrayfield, that'll be beneficial. It'll give them a lot of confidence, because chasing the game there, the Scottish team with their tails up, would be a hard day at the office. But I think, answering your question, Marshy, tight five. Will has presence. Will Skelton's one of the biggest human beings.
Yeah, do you start
He
with
can see the players he made a big impact yesterday. I think you got a big body like him. We spoke about Rob Valetini, what he's doing with his carries. They're going to need some fronts up there, but it's also, does that have an impact on your line-out ability? Didn't seem to yesterday, but it's a different animal. Scotland, they've got a good defensive line-out. They're all good questions.
He's actually getting some depth, though, Joe, isn't he? And I think that maybe is why he's been through the pain of actually trying to find that starting combination and then the reserves to back it up, because, Harry Wilson will obviously come back into the mix as well. And then you've got this congestion in the midfield now with Suaalii bloody putting his hand up, and he went onto the wing yesterday, didn't he? So he's actually all of a sudden starting to create competitiveness within the squad. Bringing Skelton back, like you said, has created that in the second row. At hooker, they're starting to look good, So, yeah, I think for a bit of pain, he's got long-term gain, and now they've actually got some real competitiveness in their squad.
And they're good decisions that selectors have to make, because everyone's competing and they're really positive selections, and it just depends upon how they want to go into that game. And only he'll know that.
I think if they win this game, they win the Grand Slam.
Oh, mate, they've got to beat Ireland.
Ireland are rubbish at the moment.
Oh.
They're not there. They're not the Ireland team of last year.
Please put that on our social media.
I love the Irish. I love the Irish. I love the Irish.
Has said the Irish
I love Guinness.
are rubbish.
I love Guinness. I love the Irish.
Number 2 team in the world are rubbish. You heard it right here first.
The All Blacks this weekend, are they just going to give Sam Cane his swan song, TJ Perenara?
TJ as well, isn't it? Yeah, look, I would imagine so. I don't feel probably that they will be wearing an All Black jersey again. You never say never, because probably many said that about TJ.
Yeah.
But, man, he fought his way back after 2 years from really, really hard injury recoveries, and adversity. So you never say never, but you would imagine this is, their swan song. And, I think they'd probably deserve to have the right number on their back to play their last test match, so that when they put that piece of memorabilia up, this was my last test, it's got a 9 and a 7 on it. Yeah. Obviously the All Blacks are bigger than any one individual, but these guys not only probably deserve it, they deserve it because they're actually still playing good rugby.
Yes.
So it's not as if it's give them a jersey because, it'll be nice for them. I think it's sentimental.
They've earned it. Yeah.
I think they're still both playing well enough to have earned that. And then I'd imagine they looked exhausted, physically, mentally, off the back of that was their 14th test for the year, the All Blacks.
Yeah.
A few of them. So I think there will be some freshening up from Razor. He won't be treating Italy with disrespect because they can be niggly on the day. But I'd imagine there's going to be quite a few guys that have been training and working hard that'll get a
Proctor
go.
will get in.
Possibly Proctor, you probably Ruben Love might get a go.
That'd be tasty. Yeah, he's quality.
And some maybe some tweaks in the middle row as well. Patrick might get a start, and look, I think the guys that deserve to start will start, but they'll have to be careful that they don't.
And they want to finish the tour positively.
Yeah,
when you come to these Autumn Nations, there's part of it, and often the commentary beforehand, you think about getting back home, going to the beach, getting the bar. No, we want to finish this. We want to finish the tour strong, because there's nothing worse than finishing the tour badly, and the next time you play is going to be probably June together. So you want
that
to
is
finish
a real
well.
thing though. Like you've got one foot on the plane home, eh? Like
Shag used to say it all the time. Steve Hansen used to say, "The last game of the tour, boys, you don't want to put that towel on the beach and lie in the sand, and there's a great big rock in the middle of it."
That's a long
it is, isn't it? It's like, yeah, right, okay. Make sure there's no rocks under my towel when I get onto the beach, Shag, because we haven't lost that last game. But yeah, it's you want to put in a good performance, but sometimes enthusiasm can help that as well. There's always this theory of, let that team go back out there and, work it out. But again, you've got to keep everybody healthy within the squad. A lot of them have been there for the last 5 weeks and haven't played a lot of rugby, and they'll be eager as to play.
And it's an opportunity for Razor and the All Black setup just to see some of those players. And,
absolutely.
And that's why you do these tours as well, which I think is important, really important.
Yeah. South Africa, Wales.
Wow.
Oh, Warren
Hey?
Gatlin.
Poor
I
old
know,
Warren.
I know. Like,
Poor
I feel
man.
for Gats, to be fair. Look,
Yeah,
I'm going to
same.
be perfect honest here, and I'm going to tread really delicately, but
Don't just rip in.
no, because my daughter's Welsh.
Oh,
and
is
I love
she?
the Welsh, and I played there, and
I love the
really
Welsh
enjoyed my
too,
time,
but
and I got
they're
some
all
great mates.
frustrated.
They are, but like that side that ran out yesterday, I was looking at it, and I hardly recognised like 3/4 of the team.
Yeah.
So he's dealing with a real reset in terms of
Massive
like
reset.
people to pick. You know, the Dan Biggers and the I don't know, the
George North gone.
the
Wyn
Jones.
Williams, the fullback, and all of
Alan
those.
Jones. Yeah, it's a massive turnover.
Liam Williams.
Liam Williams,
Liam
yeah,
Williams.
yeah, yeah.
There's loads. There's
Gareth
like
Davies, the centre, is just retired.
Davies,
you know,
yeah.
like it's like they are real raw and green. So, see, Ian Botham's boy was playing.
was he?
Great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
playing
that's
on the blind
fantastic.
side. That's Ian Botham's, no, his grandson. Sorry.
Amazing.
Yeah. Playing for
cool?
Wales. How about that?
What a link.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're so right though. Like it's not. It's so hard for Gats because it's not. He's been dealt these cards, and you do look at the squad, and even Warburton and that was talking about it afterwards, where you man for man, they're just not. They're nowhere near any other international team that they should be.
So now they're going to have to face man for man, watching the Springboks come off that bus.
Ridiculous.
on the weekend, and you're just thinking,
70 points.
Will they go Snyman and Etzebeth again? That was ridiculous.
Oh, wasn't it?
Those two locks.
His offloading, Snyman's offloading.
He's some
Yeah.
player.
isn't
yeah.
he?
Yeah, he's some
And you talk
player.
about clean ball for a halfback.
Oh, he's got long place.
And he does. He has like a Viking place. It's like unbelievable.
He actually looks a bit like a
Yeah,
Viking,
yeah,
doesn't
I'm
he?
sure there's some Viking blood.
Yeah,
in
I wouldn't like to take him to Valhalla.
No,
Hey?
me and Etzebeth. My goodness.
I think he'd
I'm
be the one
happily
sending you to
retired when I see
Valhalla.
those guys, champ. Happily retired.
George, thank you very much for coming on the show,
Thanks,
mate.
buddy.
Absolute pleasure.
Really appreciate
Yeah, it's
it.
been good.
Yeah.
It's good to have a chat.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for listening. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Give us a review as well. Boost us up the ratings. See you next week.